What's up, everybody? It's Ryan Weaver. I am on the Don't Unfriend Me show, otherwise known as The Dumb Show, with host Matt Spear. You guys can find the show at The Dumb Show on social media or thedumbshow.com.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me show with your hosts Matt, Leroy, Amy, Olivia and Mike. Geopolitics, military analysis and election coverage. Coming to you live on the Spreely.tv network and all major social media channels at The Dumb Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree, just don't unfriend me.
What's going on? It seems like we were just together last night, and already here we are. Sorry about the red flash. The software, Ecamm, is fantastic. I love those guys. They are probably one of the best streaming softwares out there, the things that you can do. Unfortunately, the software update that they installed the other night is leaving a red flash. So if you think it's subliminal messaging, it is. If I'm trying to do mind control, you're on to me. We're going to be covering Nikki Haley's press conference. You guys know I have given Nikki Haley a ton of airtime. And the reason why is because I truly believe in the process, and this is a democratic process. We have a republic, but this is democracy, and this is the way it works, and it's mob rule, and that's how it works. Now, when we're talking about a Super Tuesday primary or a primary before a general election, that really is kind of how we do things, which is popular vote wins. But the national election is completely different, which is not democracy. And you can sit here and say it's democracy, and it's not, because it's not a winner-take-all situation when it comes to the popular vote. It's based upon each individual state. And that is truly the main difference between a democracy and individual states having an opinion that all equal, based upon their population, the same voice. And California may have 52, 57 some odd electoral votes, and you might have another state that has 1 electoral vote or 4 electoral votes or 7 electoral votes. I don't think anyone's left with 1. I think the population has increased enough where most states have +1. But either way, used to be that way, where 1 vote from Wyoming equal 1 vote from California. And that is the true essence of the national election. But the great thing about the primary that we get to see is where the country is going. And I don't even care about Nikki Haley and Donald Trump right now, because the true shocker, not even a shocker, but the true testament to what took place last night happened over on the Democrat side. And it needs to be looked at because it's important information. We're going to do that. We're going to listen to what Nikki has to say. I've got Fox going. She's got her flags lined up, ready to rock and roll. And here's what we're looking for from Nikki Haley. Now, there's already been rumors out of the camp that she's not going to endorse Donald Trump. That would be extremely disappointing to me. She made a commitment to do so. She got on the debate stage by agreeing to do that. That was the one thing. Whoever wins, you'll endorse. She raised her hand. She said she would. And now, because there's been a change at the helm and at the RNC, she's backpedaling a little bit, at least floating the idea. I think the pressure is on this morning. It sounds like Donald Trump and her have not had a conversation. And any relationship that they did have as she was ambassador and obviously he was president seems to be not doing too well. I have tried to be as clear as I can. Ronald Brown says, dump Trump. Ronald, it's 10 a.m. Take a dump, come back, and then we can have a conversation. Even though it rhymed, you're a poet and you didn't know it. I think that the Nikki Haley in Donald Trump situation is going to be an interesting play. Is she's suspending her campaign. And also there's one other candidate who did that, Ron DeSantis. They didn't officially drop out. They've suspended, which means they can pick up at any time. So I think it's important to understand that language here is something we should focus on. Now, she has a choice. She either rallies around Donald Trump or she leaves him an ultimatum. The ultimatum being you need to curtail to the independent voters, the disenfranchised voters, the never Trumpers, the blue collar Democrats, all that other type of stuff. And if that takes place, it's gonna really kind of hurt her, because here's why. Because in 2028, you have three clear choices on the Republican side. Possibly four, maybe even five. There'll be more who run, but I did this 3 years ago when I told you it was going to be DeSantis, Haley, and Trump, and here we are. When it comes to next election, you're talking Youngkin is probably going to be in the conversation. DeSantis is going to be in the conversation. Nikki Haley is going to be in the conversation. Byron Daniels might be in the conversation as well. He seems to be an up-and-comer. And then there's a couple of others that are going to throw their hat in the ring. But those are the clear front runners right now who we see the RNC moving forward with. If Nikki Haley doesn't get behind Trump right now, and truly get behind, and she already has an out. She said she was going to do it, so she can just check the box and move on. It's going to be – Ronald, I thought you were going to go take a dump. We had this conversation. Listen, Ice Cube's dad, I don't mind you having an opinion, but chime in with something more than – monosyllabic with a few exclamation points. Challenge what we're saying. Why lock Trump up? Do you want to lock people up who haven't been criminally convicted or charged of anything? Can you please explain to me which crimes he's been convicted of? No, you can't do that. So you're just as bad as the lock Hillary Clinton up. This is how America works. I'm not sure if you understand this. And certainly in California, I could see how that would be confusing to you, is usually you have charges and then you go through a processes. And then after that processes, there's a jury. And then they decide whether you're guilty or not guilty. Donald Trump hasn't been through that. Civil cases aren't criminal cases. I don't know if you know that either. So calm down. It's awful early to start drinking, but you're going to make me do it this morning. So you got to knock it off. All right, Ron? Okay, Ronald? Ronnie? All right, buddy. So anyway, now that Ron has gotten his stuff out, and if he does it again, I'm going to have to just say goodbye to Ron. But it comes down to, you've got Nikki Haley, which is doing a power struggle. You've got Donald Trump, who just had his campaign manager on TV, and absolutely, they asked him like 7 times, have you spoken to Haley? And he just dodged completely. This isn't about Haley, blah, 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 blah. So it's going to be interesting to see. Either way, you have a very large portion of the country last night that said, we don't want Donald Trump. And you can cut it down. Okay. Bye, Ron. You're out. Someone ban him, please. I can't stand people who can't have a conversation. He is guilty as sin. The eyes don't like. Don't pretend you're a man of God, first of all, Ronnie, please. Someone ban his ass. Thanks. The last thing you're going to have is how Joe Biden's going to react to this. So Joe Biden is going to react in one of two ways. Now, last night before this, there was kind of communication that Joe Biden was going to go full, complete meltdown city on Donald Trump. And I don't know if Joe Biden's going to do that. Joe Biden has a real problem. And the real problem is that Joe Biden cannot afford the luxury to go after those disenfranchised voters that Nikki Haley got. He can't. He's got 8 months, and his own campaign is bleeding. His own voters are not showing up for him. This is a big issue for him. And I'll show you why. There's a couple things. Before she comes on, I'm hoping we can. Here's 2 slides you need to look at. So Biden's voters less enthusiastic. This is from the New York Times and Siena. Now, I want you to understand, this is only 980 registered voters, but it gives us a good idea where we're at. And when it comes to enthusiasm or overall opinion, these are actually fairly realistic polls. And it's not because Trump has a better poll number here. It's just a matter that he is not in office right now. So he immediately gets he's not responsible, therefore the other guy on the other side is. Enthusiastic about Joe Biden, 23%. They've had 4 years of him. Nobody wants any more. With Trump from Republicans, 48% enthusiasm. That is a huge number, massive number. When you look at satisfied, just basically right down the middle, generic vanilla, 50%. That's really where the sweet spot is. And because Donald Trump has so much from enthusiasm, the satisfied number is a little lower. But when you put them both together, it's a fantastic number. Almost 80% fall into the enthusiastic or satisfied number. And dissatisfied 9%, angry 9%. So you look at the numbers, and they have a very clear tale of what happened last night. And what happened is, real simply, Democrat voters did not show up for Joe Biden last night. In fact, if you take 2016 and 2020 and you look at the overall primary and Super Tuesday of previous years, less than half of what showed up in 16 and 20 showed up last night, which means people really don't care. They have no desire to show up. Now, this is not contested, right? So Joe Biden wasn't really contested in 2020. There were small third-party candidates, but there was no contestation to him being the Democrat nominee. You have that here. Look at Kamala. She dropped out with 1%. Look at Klobuchar, less than 1%. He didn't have any competition like Donald Trump does. Donald Trump has Nikki Haley, and she's polling at, now when I said 15% nationally would be an amazing feat, she's polling like 21% nationally. That's ridiculous. It's an amazing number for a primary opponent. So when you compare 2016 with Hillary Clinton, which had very low primary turnout. You look at 2020, which had extremely high primary turnout for Joe Biden, and we saw that in the numbers. You have a complete reversal from where we were in 2020 to 2024. People are not showing up for Joe Biden. Now, he's uncontested, so a lot of people could say, well, wait a second, because he's uncontested, that's why nobody's showing up. That's not true, because in 2020, they did show up. It was almost like a protest vote against Trump. I believe there is a lethargic reaction that has happened, and people are just anesthetized to the Trump-Biden race. They heard that it was going to be the end of all times in 2016. They heard it was going to be end of times in 2020. And now people are like, whatever, I just don't care. Now it's going to be which party is more pissed off. And there is no doubt in my mind that's Republicans. Republicans are we are like, there's no freaking way that we're going to listen to Joe Biden and this crew for another 4 years. We're sick of it. So when you look at enthusiasm, I think the get out and vote element most assuredly is with Republicans. But the problem, once again, is that there is a very large enthusiastic portion of the party which is supporting Nikki Haley, and Donald Trump has to get them. He has to bring them in. And this is what I told you 3 years ago. Everyone's saying Nikki Haley will not be the vice president. You know what? There's a very big possibility she wouldn't. Remember what I said. I didn't say she will. I said she should. There's a difference because he needs those votes. I don't see Trump getting those votes unless he comes out and gets her full-throated support today at 10 o'clock, or she has a plan of action or some sort of olive branch she's going to extend to Donald Trump that says you can do A, B, and C, and then I'll do D. It's going to be an interesting play. It certainly will. Anyway, so I hope you guys are excited about this. I am. Nikki Haley has her teleprompter checker and lighting checker just coming out that laid her speech down. She just left the podium, and we'll see her on stage here shortly. You can see I've got it for you live. I do not have it paused because I want to get it the real reaction here. So let's go and look at a couple of stats. So besides the fact that we just looked at the overall enthusiasm, here's a couple of other things. By the way, Nikki Haley has 89 delegates, and Trump is at 995. So that's less than 10%. It's essentially 9% of the delegates. She would have had to have performed in order to stay in this race, probably around 20% of the delegates. If she would have cleared 150 to 175, she should have stayed in this race. But this is all but decided, and it's a good thing she's getting out. But here's what I was telling you earlier, which is super interesting. When we take a look at this, look at North Carolina. And when we look at North Carolina, why is this important? Well, this is not necessarily a battleground, but it absolutely can be in contestation. In 2016, Trump took the Carolinas. In 2020, I believe he took South, didn't take North. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the way I remember. But in this case, you're looking at 12.7% of the vote, 88,000 votes. Remember, the entire election of 2020 was decided by 90,000 votes, 3 states. And you've got one state right here, right now, which 12.7, 88,000 votes are actually no preference. Joe Biden, that is a contest vote. That is I'm not happy with you. We don't like you. We're going to go ahead and pick somebody else vote. It sends a clear message to Joe Biden that the Eastern Seaboard is, in fact, open. And because Nikki Haley represented well in some of these states, it just leads you to believe more that Donald Trump has a choice to make. Does he pick her? Can she go ahead and bow out of this contest without doing too much damage? So Trump has an out to say, listen, I'll put you in my cabinet. You can be Secretary of State, or I'll put you as VP. Whatever it is, this is showing right here. This is where I told you the election was going to be won. There is enough votes out there in these states that are not happy with Biden that are supporting Nikki Haley. And everyone's like, oh, she's getting Democrat votes. You're damn right she is. It happens every election. Republicans go over to the Democrat side. Democrats come over to the Republican side. Independents decide to sway between each election. Who gives a shit? This is the way elections are won. Is you have a 7% margin that you're fighting for every single year, and they decide really these states that are up for grabs. And for anyone to say, well, we don't want Nikki Haley's votes, that's fine. You're going to sit home in November and you're going to go play golf. Or you're going to have to find a way to get her votes. And Biden is susceptible. So I want you to consider it like this. It's like a home and home series. I don't know if you guys know what that is in sports, but let's say we're going to play the Dallas Stars. And the Dallas Stars are number 1 in the Central Division right now. And I think the Avs, actually it's 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter. But let's just say the Avs are 2 and Dallas is number 1. And we're behind by 2 points for the Central Division. Now, a game, if they play together, is considered a 4-point swing. What do I mean by that? Well, Dallas needs those points to stay ahead of Colorado if they're behind by 2. If not, Colorado will be even with Dallas. But then Dallas lost a game to actually pull ahead. So it's called a 4-point game. Dallas lost 2, Colorado gained 2, and because they're playing for the 1 and 2 position, it's a 4-point game versus 2. Nikki Haley's coming on. Let me finish my point, and then we'll watch it. So because of that, the whole point of what I'm trying to say is that with Nikki Haley pulling these votes, that's 2 points, and Joe Biden losing those votes, that's a 4-point game. So as a candidate, Donald Trump, he should look at that and say, okay, I can take advantage of Biden bleeding votes, but I can also heal by taking those votes and turning them over to me, which would be a 4-point game. Make sense? Let's listen to Nikki Haley, see what she has to say, and then we'll come back. Since we're not doing a show tonight, I've got my daughter's play, and we'll do the show today. Here we go.
Just over a year ago, I launched my campaign for president. When I began, I said the campaign was grounded in my love for our country. Just last week, my mother, a first-generation immigrant, got to vote for her daughter for president. Only in America. I am filled with the gratitude for the outpouring of support we've received from all across our great country. But the time has now come to suspend my campaign. I said I wanted Americans to have their voices heard. I have done that. I have no regrets. And although I will no longer be a candidate, I will not stop using my voice for the things I believe in. Our national debt will eventually crush our economy. A smaller federal government is not only necessary for our freedom, it is necessary for our survival. The road to socialism is the road to ruin for America. Our Congress is dysfunctional and only getting worse. It is filled with followers, not leaders. Term limits for Washington politicians are needed now more than ever. Our world is on fire because of America's retreat. Standing by our allies in Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan is a moral imperative. But it's also more than that. If we retreat further, there will be more war, not less. As important, while we stand strong for the cause of freedom, we must bind together as Americans. We must turn away from the darkness of hatred and division. I will continue to promote all those values, as is the right of every American. I sought the honor of being your president. But in our great country, being a private citizen is privilege enough in itself. And that's a privilege I very much look forward to enjoying. In all likelihood, Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee when our party convention meets in July. I congratulate him and wish him well. I wish anyone well who would be America's president. Our country is too precious to let our differences divide us. I have always been a conservative Republican and always supported the Republican nominee. But on this question, as she did on so many others, Margaret Thatcher provided some good advice when she said, quote, "Never just follow the crowd. Always make up your own mind." It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him. And I hope he does that. At its best, politics is about bringing people into your cause, not turning them away. And our conservative cause badly needs more people. This is now his time for choosing. I end my campaign with the same words I began it, from the book of Joshua. I direct them to all Americans, but especially to so many of the women and girls out there who put their faith in our campaign. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for God will be with you wherever you go. In this campaign, I have seen our country's greatness. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, America. God bless you.
Age 52, a former governor, two-time governor there in South Carolina, former UN ambassador.
So I'm not going to listen to Fox's commentary because I think it's pretty clear. A couple things is she gave some foreshadowing that she would not accept a VP request from Donald Trump. She's not happy. She's pissed. She has every right to be pissed. You can only be called bird brain so many times before you probably are just like, you know what, enough's enough. She hit Donald Trump plenty of times, and I think she was tasteless in a lot of her attacks on Trump. But Donald Trump's tasteless against everybody. So anyone who's like, oh, be still my heart, Nikki Haley stood up for herself. You give me a break. Good. Donald Trump deserves a little humble pie. And this should send a message to Trump. It should, because his campaign's not stupid. His campaign knows that they are going to have to find a way to get Haley to stand up and endorse. Anyone that thinks that there are enough votes out there without Haley's votes, you have no idea what politics are about. Or we'll scratch that. That's not a fair statement. That's a horrible statement. You're not aware of how this works. You might dabble in this, but you don't understand that a 15-20% swing of voters who are going to say, even if 5% of them stay home, Trump loses. So you've got to find a way to get those people on your side, because you're going to gain them. Right when she drops out, there's going to be a few, very small, surprisingly enough, of those voters. 50% of them have said, we're not going to vote for Trump. We're not even going to just vote. We're just not going to show up. That is terrifying for Trump. So he's got to figure out, and that is a much simpler proposition for Trump to figure out than Joe Biden. How is he going to figure out how to get people to like him when he's got 8 months to solve the border, 8 months to figure out about Israel, 8 months to fulfill his promises that he hasn't kept to all the Democrat and the youth vote that he essentially failed, how he's going to make the inner cities stabilized and stop the homicide rate and the drug rate and the crime rate going in there, how he's going to help the family union and increase overall babies being born in the United States, how he's going to fix our energy independence in 8 months. He can't. Gas prices are going up. Inflation's going back up. He's screwed. The small time Band-Aids that he did in order to get through the primaries and get through a lot of his downward trend in order to launch his campaign, they're fizzling out. So you're going to see energy prices increase now. You're going to see electricity for air conditioning, everything else, oil reserves. All of that is going to bleed out. You're going to pay it at the pump. You're going to feel it in your electric bill. You're going to feel it in your water bill. You're going to feel it at the grocery store. You're going to feel the American dollar depreciate over the next 8 months. That is just the way it works when you have rapid inflation. Now, the one thing that's on his side is the Fed. The Fed said they're going to make 3 cuts this year. That can't happen soon enough for Biden, and it needs to happen for him in the next 3 months in order to get a shot in the arm. But the problem is that housing prices are not going to adjust accordingly. It will take a full 2 to 3 quarters for housing prices to adjust to the Fed dropping rates. And that still means that the average everyday person is going to have a struggle getting into a home and getting a rate that makes sense. So that isn't necessarily going to be his saving grace. So Biden has a lot to make up for. Donald Trump has to simply figure out a way to appease the Nikki Haley voters. And it's going to take some swallowing of pride. It's going to take him to have some open arms. And honestly, it's going to have him say something extremely nice to Nikki Haley. And I don't know if he's capable. We saw him do that in Iowa. We saw him do that, go after her in New Hampshire. I just don't know if Trump can do it. And he might just be stubborn enough to think that he's got enough votes, and he doesn't. It's interesting. So there is that. Figure out what you think. Amy says, did anyone else lose the feed? Matt seems frozen. No, I'm not frozen. No. Is it possible that Biden would dump Kamala and try to recruit Haley? Nikki Haley's a Republican, Melissa. Why do people think she's a Democrat? Because Donald Trump is not the Republican Party. Why does everyone think that because you go against Trump that you're not a Republican? Do people think that the people who went against Joe Biden aren't Democrats? Do we feel because Donald Trump went against the establishment in 2016 that Donald Trump's not a Republican? He went against Christie. He went against Bush. I mean, these are names that were laden inside the halls of Republicans. Does that mean Donald Trump's not? No, of course not. It just meant that he was somebody who was challenging the status quo. Nikki Haley just challenged the status. Well, she didn't. She is the status quo. She is an establishment Republican, and she decided to go ahead and challenge the non-establishment. Well, here's the thing, is that they're both establishment Republicans. Donald Trump is the leader of the MAGA movement, and the neoconservatives, more Christian conservative element when it comes to not just the way that socially Donald Trump owns the Christian conservative movement, but financially, from the economic standpoint, using Christian America first, all that other type of stuff is really Trump's MO. This is more globalist Christianist. These are people who want to go out and influence foreign governments, who believe that by replacing their current form of government with democracy and a republic and capitalism, that we can go ahead and nation build, that type of shit. That's Nikki Haley. It's just a different form of conservatism. And for anyone to be like, do you think that no, Joe Biden will not. That's as crazy to me. And no offense, I'm not saying you're crazy, Melissa. I'm just saying it's a crazy idea. Is as crazy as Kamala Harris running for the presidency. Nobody likes Kamala Harris. And there is no way in hell that Nikki Haley is going to go work for Joe Biden. She despises Joe Biden as much as Donald Trump does. She despises Joe Biden as much as we do. What in that speech made anyone feel that she is on the side of Democrats? She doesn't think that Donald Trump is right for America right now. She's entitled to that opinion. I disagree with her. A lot of people do. I think that her and Trump together would be an amazing ticket. And if they could find a way to have that relationship they had in 16 through 18 when she was UN ambassador, I think they could do great things together. But Donald Trump has a very interesting choice to make at VP, and this one is going to decide his campaign. Because let's face it, this has nothing to do with Joe Biden. It has everything to do with Kamala Harris. We can handle Joe Biden. Okay, we can take the House, take the Senate. It looks like we're going to have a very good chance of at least gaining traction in the House. Senate is a possibility. It's going to be tight, but it is a possibility, especially the way the country's going right now with not supporting Biden. That means they don't support the down ticket. If we can sneak in and gain those people who Haley has, it gives us more of a chance to win the House and the Senate too. So there's a lot at stake here. And let's not forget, Haley has the big donors. Not all these people don't want to go to Trump. Haley comes in as VP, Secretary of State, something like that, and then Donald Trump gets those donors. So we've got to look at all the areas of possibilities here, not just that Nikki Haley is not somebody we see as a president or someone that we actually agree with to the current state of our party, but that doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is getting Donald Trump in place. So we got to figure out what that looks like. But Trump has some work to do here. He's got to heal the Republican Party before the RNC conference and the convention. And that is a much simpler job than what Joe Biden has to do. Joe Biden has to find a way to unify the nation with horrendous results and no time to get there. So it's an interesting dichotomy for sure. My question was mainly regarding politics and the lines being so blurred, but thank you, trying to learn politics atmosphere. Oh no, Melissa, it's okay. It's a good question. And it wasn't directed at you. I get questions all the time that are just, I hear, and it's not me going after the viewer. It's me going after the question itself. Is Nikki Haley is a Republican. She's not a Democrat. She's not a Democrat shill. She's never voted anything Democrat. Her voting record is better than Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard, when it looks at her Liberty score, is like 12%. She is one of the worst and most progressive people ever to be in office. And people have no idea. If you actually look at Elizabeth Warren, Klobuchar, Bernie Sanders, and most members of the squad, and look at Tulsi Gabbard's stances, I mean, she's pro-abortion. She is absolutely take semi-automatic weapons out of hands of Americans. She is absolutely for cash bail is to be removed. She believes in reducing the size of the national defense. She is not. She's against nuclear power, nuclear energy, and energy independence. So Tulsi Gabbard is more of a liberal than Nikki Haley ever could be, and people are like, Nikki Haley's a rhino. No, she's not. She's not a rhino at all. In fact, her entire life, she's been a conservative. For people to say she's a rhino like a John McCain or a Lindsey Graham, it makes no sense to me because that's not what her voting record says. But people say now rhino basically is anyone who stands up against Trump. And to me, I think that's dangerous because there will come a day after Trump. We'll call it AT. There was BC, AD, and now it's AT after Trump. And the Republican Party AT, posthumous from Trump, is going to have to redefine itself. It's going to have to figure out who it is because you're going to see people like Lauren Boebert get kicked out. You're going to see Marjorie Taylor Greene, who believes in Jewish space lasers, ultimately leave the party. When that happens, what are we left with? Well, we've got a very good strong group of military servicemen and women. We have Byron Daniels. We've got guys like Eli Crane. We've got Luttrell. We've got people who have a very strong belief. Jim Jordan, who believes in our country. Now you have Mitch McConnell stepping down. So this gives us an ability to bring some new blood and a more vibrant and youthful representation of the Republican Party. But with that change, we have to decide, is it going to be continued make America great again? Or is it going to be a different view, more Ronald Reagan, sun-crested dew on the fresh morning of a new day type platform? And it's going to be an interesting thing, because here's what it comes down to. The MAGA movement will die on on November 24, if Donald Trump doesn't win. You will see Republicans repudiate in Washington the MAGA movement, because that means that it will have been unsuccessful since 2016, which means it's no longer where America wants to go. Now, I understand we like it, we love it, we appreciate it, but that doesn't mean that the United States loves it. It means that there's a lot of people, and as we saw by the numbers on Super Tuesday and throughout this primary, there are a lot of people who are disenfranchised with Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. So we're going to have to figure out where we stand as a party. A good way to do that, and what I would love for Trump to do, and I know this sounds completely crazy, but I would love to see Donald Trump grab Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, Chris Christie, all of them, grab Scott and bring them together and have a conversation about writing a party platform for the Republican Party, because we haven't had one since 2016. There is no Republican Party platform. It used to be we had one: limited government, lower taxes, believed in family values, Christian conservative faith, believe that abortion is absolutely abhorrent to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. These things were fairly well known. A strong defense, strong borders, sovereign country. These were the Republican platform. We don't know what they are now, because you've got multiple people in power speaking out of both sides of their mouth, and there's a very unclear prescription for what a conservative is. So I think that is how you heal this party. You bring all of those candidates together, and Republicans are going to be like, wait a second, we're getting a party platform, and we're getting it from multiple candidates who can have a voice, and you hammer this out. You go into a room, you order 12 pots of coffee, get a few cigars, and rock this thing out and facilitate this conversation, and you bring in Haley. You bring in these people who all had a say in this primary to finally figure out where the RNC stands. And then you take Laura Trump, and she starts off, and the first thing she does is lay out what the hell the party platform is. And if you want to be a Republican, here's the checklist. You don't, go over there. This is your side. Because here are the things that we need for our umbrella, and you are more than welcome to stand underneath it, no matter what race, color, creed you are. But this is the prescription of what a Republican is in today's society. If you can't do that, then we are going to continue to have this just discombobulated mess of a party that has no idea whether to go left, up, down, straight, or sideways. This is what Donald Trump can do to bring the party together. But Donald Trump doesn't pay me to do that. He should, because over the last 3.5 years, I've been pretty much right about everything I've said when it comes to these elections. and if he doesn't figure out a way to bring the party together, we're going to be in a position that he has to marginalize these voices. And this is a great way to do it. Imagine he gets Chris Christie, he gets Vivek Ramaswamy, he gets Ron DeSantis, he gets Nikki Haley. He invites them all on national TV. He does that right now. Just get on the press and do it. And then when Nikki Haley says, I'm not going to go there, and DeSantis says, no, I'm not going to go there, then you've marginalized their voices. You've made them as small and feckless as they've been. And if they show up, then that enforces them in 2028 that they can run on a party platform that they participated in creating. This is the first step. But nobody's telling Trump this. Nobody's giving him this idea, because it's too simple. It's got to be complicated. We got to look at the numbers. We got to go to Mississippi. We got to go to Georgia. No, we got to go to Ohio. And you're playing let me put out a fire politics. It's not proactive, it's reactive politics. And this is how you lose elections. You want to win an election, you got to be proactive. You got to have the other guy follow what you're doing. Can you imagine if Republicans settle on abortion, if they settle on energy dominance, if they settle on a border plan, if they settle on health care, if they settle on Social Security and Medicare? Can you imagine what would happen to our party if we did that and had a platform of what we believe and how we're going to achieve it? Forget about it. forget Democrats would shit themselves, because the only thing that the Democrats have is to run against Trump, to go ahead and talk about insurrection and our democracy's in jeopardy. And Republicans, only thing they run on right now is reacting to that shit. We have got to set ourselves apart. So will Nikki Haley run as vice president for Joe Biden? No. What Nikki Haley should do is either consider what I just said and present that, or Donald Trump should present that, or whoever listens to my show who has his ear needs to talk to him, because this is the solution to bring the party together. Oh, it's so lofty, Matt. It'll never happen. Then who cares? It helps you. Then you write it, and you be the great white hope, Donald. Republicans don't know who we are. We think we know who we are, but I bet if I ask most of the listeners right now, or asked the listeners last night, 450 people who listened, and asked them the question, please tell me what a Republican is today and what it stands for, they would not be able to tell me. Well, we believe in small government, lower taxes, we're Christians, we believe in MAGA. No, that's not a party platform. Good morning, Matt. Question. This is from Tim. Does primary vote... Whoa. Here, let me bring these down here, make this easier. Good morning, Matt. Question. Does primary voter turnout in any way reflect the turnout that will show up in November related to percentage-wise Republicans versus Democrats? Tim, it's a fantastic, probably one of the best questions I've had in months. Yes, it does, and it doesn't. And the only way that you can do that is you have to sunset the numbers. So you have to look at previous election cycles. And luckily, we have that data. Now, if this was the first data, could we say that? No, because the ebb and flow is dependent. The true indicator is the protest vote against Biden. Let me walk you through that real quick, because I said I was going to do that for y'all. Let me get Nikki Haley off of here, because we're not going to watch any more of that. That was about as short and sweet as it gets. So if we take a look and we go to North Carolina, right? So this is one of the first ones that I showed you. Nikki Haley gives you the Eastern Seaboard, Upper Northeast, and makes Donald Trump competitive in some of these places like Ohio, Michigan, Minnesota, North Carolina, South Carolina. He doesn't need any help. But you take a look, and 87.3%, that's a fairly large number. But remember, he's uncontested. So the amount of votes that you're looking at are pretty significant, right? 606,302 votes. But if you take a look at this no preference vote right here, that's 88,000 votes, 12.7%. That is a huge concern. Although we don't vote for the popular vote, these are states that if 12% decide to stay home and don't vote for Biden, Donald Trump's going to win those states. Just remember how close it was. Now, the swing states, you did see disparity, and we know why, because of the mail-in ballots that went out because of COVID. We all understand that bullshit and what happened. Some people believe it's stolen and Dominion machines. We're not going to go into that crap. It's real simple. More people voted in this election than ever before, about 60 million people. And it's because of COVID. They stayed home and everyone got a ballot who had registered at any period in time, or who was in one of these inner cities. And you saw these blue counties come out and see 90-10 splits for Joe Biden. It doesn't happen. You don't see 90-10 splits. You see it in primaries. We saw it in Montana and a couple of other places. But you don't see it in a general election. It just doesn't happen, because pretty much every area is anywhere from a 60-40 to 50-50 split to Democrat to Republican, or with independents and libertarians. It's pretty much the same way across the entire country. And the reason why is that's the way districting works. That's the way redlining used to work, is that they kind of put people in pockets based upon demographics, overall income, overall education, and then you get an amalgamation of a fair and balanced district that represents both sides. But you don't get that in Philadelphia. You don't get that in Maricopa County in Arizona. You don't get that down in Atlanta. So you're seeing that a lot of these places, especially like in Minnesota, Minneapolis, and in Michigan and Detroit, which are seeing massive amounts of turnouts in these blue inner city and non-rural areas, were incredibly just 90-10, 80-20 splits for Biden and Trump, which is not conducive to the rest of the country. You take all the rest of the countries, you take those 7 swing states, and you take those 26 top counties, they voted completely disproportionately to the rest of the country. Why? Well, mail-in ballots. We understand this. So you're not going to have that this year. And you're seeing it in these numbers. So that's, to answer your question, is what's really important here. You're seeing no preference. Those are people who voted last year. Those are people who came out and are now in the system, and they're like, no, you got us in 2020 and we hadn't voted in forever. We're not doing it again. So we're going to vote for somebody else. That is what Donald Trump needs to go after. Those are the ones who didn't come over to Nikki Haley's campaign, who didn't vote for DeSantis. Remember, people wrote in DeSantis. He got a shit ton of votes last night. DeSantis, a ridiculous amount of numbers, and I can show them to you. He did extremely. Hold on. Rumble, we just lost you. I don't know why. Rumble had an error. So come on over to Facebook, come over to Instagram, come over to any of our channels. We'd love to have you. Sorry about that, Rumble. It's not me, it's them. If you guys could tell our Rumble users, Kevin, if you could let everybody know to come on over to Spreely, come over to Twitter, come over to Instagram, Facebook, whatever, YouTube. So this is the big number. So take a look, 12.7, 88,000 votes in North Carolina, up for grabs. And is a contest vote. Take a look at this one. You're seeing 7.8% go to a third-party candidate, 3.5% to Dean Phillips. This is in Virginia. Now, those people are not going to necessarily vote for Marianne Williamson or Dean Phillips when it comes to Virginia. They're going to have a choice to make. And their choice is going to be, do we vote for Joe Biden even though we're for these candidates? Some will. Or do we jump over to Donald Trump and go ahead and support somebody because he picks Nikki Haley? Those are some things to think about. Here is another one. So this, you're looking at 82.9 Massachusetts, no preference, 9.4%. Holy moly. 4.6% to Dean Phillips, and then Marianne Williamson. So this is that Northeast quadrant that I told you that is susceptible. A lot of these people came over to Haley and made her somewhat competitive in the national race last night. This is happening all over the country, but this 9.4% is staggering. It is, I guarantee Joe Biden and his team are shitting purple Twinkies right now, because that is not what they want for an incumbent president. That is way too big of a delta from party platform, vote for the incumbent. We got 4, let's do another 4 years. People are like, I don't know if I want another 4 years of this guy. That is pretty amazing. Here is Minnesota. This is the one I'm going to break down for you that everyone should be terrified. I mean, terrified. If Minnesota flips for Donald Trump, this makes Minnesota in play. I would have told you there was no way in the 7 lower rings of hell that Minnesota would be in play, except for what I'm seeing right here. 20% uncommitted. You're talking almost, 25, 26%, 27% go to two-party candidates, and 18.9% goes to uncommitted. Let me tell you what this vote is. This is a protest vote, and this vote is tied to Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar has been railing and rallying against Joe Biden, and it is absolutely effective. Her voice in Minneapolis is super strong. She has all of the Somalian vote. I told you that these are registered voters, and although it may only make up a small percentage of the population of Minnesota and Duluth, what you're seeing is that they are the most aggravated to vote. And you're talking probably 100% of the eligible voters who are Somalian vote, which make up, you got 26 to 30, maybe 40% of the white people who vote. You're going to lose that race. She has Minnesota by the balls. And she's telling Joe Biden, you're not going to win Minnesota. If you give Donald Trump Minnesota, then Michigan's in play. Because the way Minnesota goes, Michigan's going to go. It's just the way this works. You look at Wisconsin, you look at Minnesota, you look at Michigan, and those are like a tri-county, like Maryland, Virginia, D.C., and Pennsylvania. Like California, Nevada, and Arizona are synonymous. Texas and Oklahoma and Louisiana, they're quadrants, and they're all connected, and they share borders, which means that anyone outside, like Virginia and West Virginia, you'll find the northern part of Virginia outside of Ashburn is all Republican. Well, so is the border of West Virginia, because there's crossover there, and people replant from the eastern side of West Virginia into the western side of Virginia. So therefore you see party affiliation very similar on those borders. When you have something the size of Texas, when you have something the size of Nevada and Arizona, when you have Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin all kind of in that same area, you're going to find an amalgamation of voters that transfer over. So the way, if Minnesota's in play, it puts Michigan in play, even with Whitmer there, because if there is a contest vote against Joe Biden and people are saying, no, I'm not going to vote for him, then them staying home is that home for home 4-point swing that I was telling you about before she came on. It hurts Joe Biden because they don't vote for him, but it helps Donald Trump because they don't vote for him, which is a 4-point swing. So you want more of that in politics. Now you introduce Nikki Haley into that and you take the 12, 13% that she had of those voters who are disenfranchised with Biden or disenfranchised with Trump, and they're going to stay home too, and you put those in Donald Trump's column. Now you've got a campaign that can't be beat. Do you understand how this works? So my point is, if Minnesota is in play, this is a huge lift for Donald Trump that opens up that Northeast belt to him. Nikki Haley makes it stronger. So you've got to find a way to appease that lady. You got to figure it out, man. There's got to be something you can do. So do it. Here's another example. Colorado, even though, God, I love my Colorado, one of my favorite place in the world. Love it. But it's liberal as hell now. But 83.6%, remember, they wanted to keep him off the ballot. 8.1% uncommitted, 43,000 votes. Folks, go look up at the disparity between 2020, between Trump and Biden, and you're going to see that some of these numbers are within the points of Donald Trump contesting. Now, Colorado, no, he lost by more than 10%, I believe, in Colorado. But the point is, it doesn't matter. It still makes it close. It still makes it up for grabs. And this is what Joe Biden has to figure out in a very short period of time. Let's look at Tennessee. This is crazy. You're talking 123,000 people. Only 72% of the reporting is in here. But that is not good news for him. It means a low voter turnout. Tennessee should be up where in the 300, 400,000 range. It should not be at 133,000, even if they're still missing 75,000 votes. And that's what it looks like they're missing right now. It still only puts them at 200,000 votes. And that means another 5,000 are going to go to the uncommitted column. They're going to hold that 8-9% of Tennessee is saying, no, I don't want to go to Joe Biden. It's sending a very clear message to Joe. So his campaign is shitting. Let's look at this last one. Take a look at Alabama. Okay, so I got to move this up. This one is also insane. Now, Alabama, predominantly Donald Trump country, but this tells you the tale everywhere. Even in these red states, it shows you that Donald Trump's firewall of really taking the Rust Belt is impenetrable because he's got a huge delta, almost 10 points to make up. He's not going to overtake Trump with that, and a low turnout at 186,000. So what did we pick up from last night before I get to a couple more questions? The first thing we picked up is that people aren't showing up for Joe Biden. That's going to be concerning. A lot of people showed up for Nikki Haley. And once again, a lot of people are like, Democrats. You need Democrats to win. You need people to jump. Do you think Reagan won 49 out of 50 states just with Republicans? No. Everybody jumped. He almost lost Minnesota. That's insanity. So what you've got to understand is that you've got to win the middle of the road and you've got to bring some Democrats over. There are plenty of Democrat votes to obtain. Joe Biden isn't going to go after the independent voter. His campaign is not. His campaign has to focus on bringing his base together. So you're going to see a shift. You're going to see a commercial shift that's going to leave Donald Trump kind of off to the side. They're going to focus on Biden's successes, right? They're going to forget Build Back Better. They're going to forget college forgiveness. They're going to forget Afghanistan. They're going to focus on the things that infrastructure bill, COVID, he cured COVID himself, all this other bullshit. And they're going to try to make him sound magnanimous. They're going to show him in a tie. They're going to show him shaking hands and smiling. Bills will float over with an opacity of 50, so it's transparent. And all the legislation he supposedly passed, you'll see the stock market arrow go up from behind him. These are the commercials you're going to see because they've got to get their base. And if they can do that and shore up the base to come back to the center or come back home, then you'll start seeing the attacks on Trump. But right now they are in my opinion, they're in salvage mode, and they have to be, because this is not what they want. If you go on Twitter, you can tell all the crazy ass people who are all the blue DNC machine. There's about 75 people like me who just only talk about what the DNC sends out in emails and mass communication, and then they repeat it and regurgitate it. People like Harry Sasson, people like Brooklyn Dad, these guys are all shills. They're all Donald Trump. Oh, look how embarrassing it is. He only got 60%. They're completely trying to distract from what I'm showing you right now, because this is the story of the night. So, Tim, I hope that helps you in this, that there absolutely will be 10 times more people showing up in a general election, 100 times more. It's not indicative, but if you consider it a sample size, which is ratio to proportion, where if you have 1.5 million voters show up on election day and 150,000 show up on primary Super Tuesday, you still are going to get a very consistent mix. So as of right now, if the election held tomorrow, I would say Joe Biden is going to lose a couple swing states, and he is going to be really hard pressed to keep the same electoral map that he had in 2020. Now I got to go back and I got to look at all the states that are open to Donald Trump, because this completely changes the electoral map. To get to 270 is different. Where we thought it might be Pennsylvania and Georgia and Michigan and Minnesota and Nevada and Arizona were going to be, it may not be anymore. In fact, there could be some Democrat strongholds that are vulnerable right now that look like they're going purple or possibly could turn red. This is a completely different map than 2020 or 2016, and it's going to take a long time for me to look at it based upon what I got. So to answer your question, it helps people like me who love this shit, who consider this to be the stock market or the Super Bowl. It helps me make some predictions. But right now, Donald Trump did what he should have done. Nikki Haley did overperform. You don't listen to that crap and be like, oh, no, she didn't. Yes, she did. She had 1% of the entire vote this time last year. She fought a good campaign. You got to give it to her, man. If you don't respect her, then you're making a mistake, because you're going to see her again. You better get used to it. She's not gone. We'll see what happens. Anyway, does anyone have any idea to who Trump may pick as VP? It's got me on the edge of my seat. You're not going to hear it for a while. He's not going to pick his VP right away. He's going to shore up this election. It should be closer to the convention. You usually don't hear it right away. So hang tight. I think the reason why Donald Trump hasn't announced it is because he wanted to see Nikki Haley and what was going to happen there. Now he knows. You got to tip your hat. She's a female. She's the first Republican female to win any state in a primary. She is by far the most successful Republican presidential candidate in U.S. history. You've got to give her respect. And if you don't, you're making a mistake. Trying to go through all the questions. Yeah, the MAGA movement extends beyond Trump. Yes, but can you please tell me which candidate has been a full-throated supporter of the MAGA movement, or a current legislator who is full-throated support of the MAGA movement? You got Kat Kammack, you got Byron Daniels, you got Jim Jordan, Lindsey Graham's a complete shill. Who? So when we say it'll survive, it may survive in the citizenry, but I don't think it survives in Washington. That was my point, Ames, is I think it gets challenged there. That's my thought. Citizenry, yes. I think we keep it, and I think we've always been America first, right? But Washington, if it doesn't win in 2024, the politicians will repudiate MAGA. There'll still be the guys like Eli Crane or MTG, is she still there? Even Jim Jordan and those guys. But a lot of people will try to disassociate themselves from that party. And that's just the way politics go. Ian says, I think Carrie Lake believed that says multiple things. Yeah, I think Carrie Lake's a huge mistake. Yeah, I think it essentially takes all Nikki Haley voters and any middle moderate DeSantis voters and moves completely off the map. Carrie Lake and her followers were absolutely vicious to DeSantis, and I don't think it does well. But you can do that if you want. But she can't even win a governor race. I'm sorry, I like Nikki Haley or Carrie Lake, excuse me. as a person, I think that if you lose an election, you should gracefully bow out. And she has fought appeal after appeal and lost after loss after loss, and she's not going to win. I called that election 3 weeks before it was decided. Charlie Kirk was telling you, oh, there's all these votes in America. No, there weren't. I was looking at the same numbers he was, and I walked everybody through who watches my show. They know, they remember that I said, there's no chance for her to win. There's no path to victory. Maricopa, mm-mm. And this was before it was even, the race even happened. I said, there's no path to victory for her. And there wasn't. And everybody told you Kari Lake was going to win. They also told you Whitmer was going to lose, and I told you Whitmer was going to win. They also told you that Kemp was going to get tossed out of Georgia, and I told you he wasn't. I also told you Herschel Walker had no chance to win. I told you that Mohammed Oz had no chance to win. I told you Majewski up in Ohio had no chance to win. So, you got to decide who you want to listen to. And it's not about you can only listen to me. The question is, if I say something, you better weigh it heavily because it's usually right. Violet says, I feel that Republicans fall short on their stance on abortion. We need to go back to Christian values and hold our values to ourselves alone. It's not our right to judge others based on their choices. I'm pro-life all day, but I don't have the right, according to God, to judge those in this human realm, to judge those that fall short. We lose a lot of voter base focus on abortion. Yeah, Violet, you and I agree completely. Sounds like you've listened to the show. I completely agree. Yes, Thomas, she dropped out. Sorry I'm so late on comments, folks. A lot of people are commenting. Ian says, Trump divided the Republicans, progressives divided the Dems. The more uncommitted votes Biden received should show they're not lockstep. Correct. I don't think Trump divided Republicans. I think Republicans divided Republicans. See, that's the problem. I think Trump in 2016 was the great interrupter, and then they didn't like it. And they've never recovered. I would not say Trump divided Republicans. I wouldn't. I would say the Republican Party failed to fully embrace where the country was at. That's my opinion. Ranked choice voting makes sense? No, it doesn't. Ranked choice voting is horrible. It's horrendous. You can get second place without even having a scintilla of the votes. I completely disagree. We had that in Virginia. Brandon Michon had the race locked up, and because there were two candidates who were viable, they took his votes, and a first-place candidate win who shouldn't have won, who got into the race 3 months before. Now, ranked choice voting, shit. Count the votes. Everybody gets a vote, count the vote. Whoever has the most votes wins. It's simple. Yeah, I'm not a ranked choice voting guy because most people don't know enough about one candidate, let alone 4 or 5 or 6. And that's fine if you want to go ahead and do that in a primary. That's Republicans do it all the time. But in a national election or in a state election for gubernatorial or state legislature, Senate, city council, mayor, dog catcher, no. Ranked choice voting is a waste of time. Completely horrible. Sorry, and I disagree. I don't even know if you're talking to me. Zuckerberg couldn't stand it. He had to send his peeps to knock Rumble off. Yeah, I wish I pulled that much. Listening while I'm in the shower. Okay, don't need to know that. Somebody over on Instagram said something. Let me pull this up and see if I can see it. I got to get close. It says, my husband and I noticed that he wasn't registered a Republican. The only choice he had on the screen to pick from was Democratic, Independent, and one other. He had to fill out a form in order to vote his vote to count. Why? Val, I don't know the question. I need more information. If you can send me a photograph on that. But I will tell you that usually if your choices or Democrat and Independent or Republican and Independent, it's because that is the party that you're affiliated and registered with, and that's how you voted in a previous primary or who you're registered with. If you are not registered with the Republican Party, you cannot participate unless the state has a provision for you to do so. So I would check that, number one, but I'd have to see it. You can send stuff to me. Go to thedumbshow.com and click on my contact, send me an email. Hey, this is Val, blah, 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 blah. And then I will reply to you, and then you can send me photographs or whatever you've got. And I'll try to explain it to you. I'll look up state code, and we can go from there. I may know it. I don't know. It just depends where you're from. Fox is reporting that 10% of 2020 Biden voters say they are voting for Trump, 81 million less, 8 million, 74, 10%. Okay. Deidre, there's not going to be 160 million people voting again. So COVID's not happening. People aren't going to stay home and get their mail-in ballot sent to them, which is unconstitutional. So you're not going to see that this time. So you're going to have a much less turnout. Plus, they hate both candidates now. So you're going to see drop-off from there. I think we need to wait for the dust to settle. But less votes usually means it's good for Republicans. The less voters, the better it is. Plus, that 10% swing is a nice number. You also saw 1.7 million defect from the Democrat Party and go over to Republicans. And you're seeing that that disenfranchised voter from Joe Biden. All the things that I'm saying, yes, these are all good signs for Trump, but it's still 8 months away. And, that and $4.25 can get me one hell of a cup of coffee, let's be honest. Tim says, thanks, Matt. That's what I thought. Right on, brother. Question, how many politicians, okay. How many politicians does it take to pass a bill for we the people? It's fairly simple. Standard legislation, which impacts the state level and not the national level, is a 50+1 majority. Anything that impacts the federal level or changes current federal law has to be 75% of the states or a 66% majority, which is a 2/3 majority. I hope that answers your question, Mike. The economy and inflation are very important to people. My system, Nevada, has one of the highest costs of living in the United States. Who is Trump campaign manager, or is it several people so we can send these ideas you mentioned, Matt? Obviously, they need to change course, maybe a group petition. I don't remember his full name. He's the same guy that was here in 2020. I don't know. And I don't have any relationship to Donald Trump. Donald Trump would never, ever have me come around because I don't do what Donald Trump needs me to do. I'm not that guy. I'll never be that guy. That's why I don't have 1 million followers. I mean, if I could just stick with Joe Biden and talk shit about Republicans all day, or stick with Donald Trump and talk shit about Democrats, my channel would be huge. But it's because I challenge Trump sometimes. I challenge Biden. I'll give Biden a pat on the back occasionally. Rarely, but I've done it. And people don't like that. People don't like that I talk out against January 6th. People don't like that I have the only viable, sane proposal of what happened during Election Day in November of 2020 that has been proven time and time again that I've been proven right. And people don't like me talking about that. They just want me to say that January 6th was the FBI. They want me to say that the election was stolen. And I'm not going to do those things. I never will. I'll never compromise my integrity. I'll never make shit up to make people feel good. It's just not in my DNA. I'm not saying that's what Donald Trump would want, but I don't think Donald Trump would like me in a room because I would be the no man. And I believe that in a campaign, and every campaign that I've ever been a part of, that there should be 1,000 no's to every yes. 1,000 no's to every yes. And you should have a little ticker. No, 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 no. 999, 1,000. Okay, we have a yes available. Who wants to talk? No. Bad idea. 1,001. We'll see you in 1,002. Right now, everyone get back to work. The answer is no. We're going to run on 3 things. Here's the 3 things. And we are going to talk about it incessantly until people want to puke. Until they're so sick of hearing us talk about it that they beg us to talk about something else, and then they'll truly listen. 3 things. And we're not changing those 3 things until we dominate. And right now, it needs to be just about a few things. That's it. Because there's only a few things that truly need our attention right now. The border is absolutely one of them. The economy is absolutely one of them. And world stability is absolutely one of them. This is all we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Abraham Accords, bringing peace, getting out of Ukraine, stopping the proxy war, negotiating peace in that area, negotiating peace between Israel and Palestine, and taking the fight to the remaining terrorist groups in that area, to put sanctions on Syria, to put sanctions on Iran, to put sanctions on Egypt, to put sanctions on Lebanon and Beirut, or Lebanon, and every other country that harbors terrorism. We are going to go after them, and we're going to renegotiate the war on terror, war on terror 2.0. And we're going to fight it the way I fought it last time. We are going to have every country in that region support eliminating every single terrorist stronghold in that area, period. There's number one. Number two, borders. We're building that wall. I don't care what it takes. I will do an executive order. I've got the funding. I'll use 2020 funding for that, or 2018 funding, and we'll apply for that wall. We're going to double the amount of security. We're going to have Mexico create a partition and build their own wall. If we have to help them do it, we will do it. And we're going to create a demarcation zone like the DMZ and other places across the country that have a delta of about 1 mile between American property and Mexico property. And that will be monitored 24 hours, 7 days a week, from satellites to drones to ground sensors to infrared cameras, whatever it is. That way we can see these guys coming in. We can find out when they're tunneling. We can have some delta between us, so we can react on both sides of our country. We are going to stop South America from coming in. We are going to close that side of Mexico so they have to deal with it, either be turned away or they are a buffer zone into the United States. Mexico agrees. Why? Because Mexico just became our number one trade partner. And the reason why is because of the USMCA, which Donald Trump installed. There's number two. And number one, what we're going to focus on is, and folks, this is how you do it. And you say that shit over and over and over and over and over, and you tell them why every single one of those things is antithetical to what Joe Biden's doing. It's not hard. Tim says, I think Trump needs to put Haley on the ticket or it's not going to go well. Yeah. Oh, we're not dum-dums, Tim. Dum-dums are the knuckleheads. We're just dummies. Sorry if there's a difference. Would Trump choosing a black VP secure a win? Why should he go woke? You know what would help Donald Trump win is to have someone who doesn't necessarily agree with Donald Trump be the VP, because you're going to secure the voter minds that there's a viable person where if Donald Trump it gets sick or something bad happens to him, that there is a person there who can still run with the conservative-based values, but might possibly challenge him on his thinking and help him expand his thinking. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. I don't want a yes man as the VP. Look at Mike Pence. Do you think Mike Pence ever said a word against Donald Trump? Give me a break. Kay says, thank you, Matt. You helped me do what I needed to do, even though I did not care for what you were saying. I don't care who wants to be the leader of this mess. I just want people to see our money was not stolen. It was misspent, and I wanted people to see who did it, and I pray they uncover it all in court. Huh. Well, Kay, I'm glad things are good. That's all that matters. Matthew, we have a similar issue down here in Vegas, except corporations are buying up all the houses and apartments. Rents are high unless privately owned, and you're lucky to find a privately owned rental property here. All of the corporate-owned apartments turn into slums. They're slumlords and poorly maintain their properties. Yeah, welcome to not having zoning law. You know what I mean? And there needs to be regulation. There needs to be regulation on property seize and property purchases, but that starts with zoning law. You go to a place like Houston and you can have a skyscraper, you can have a 7-Eleven and a house right next to each other. Tell me how that works. The problem is that in Houston, it works because of the amount of square footage that they have. Houston is one of the biggest cities I've ever seen in my life. I have been to pretty much every major city, and Houston is so effing massive. It makes Phoenix look like a pimple on somebody's ass. It's not Los Angeles County big, but it's huge. You can drive 3 hours in any direction in Houston. No joke. It's massive. It works for them. But yeah, we've got to figure out the property grabs that are happening. But see, that's the problem, is that property is extremely cheap right now, comparable to having houses on it. And apartments, people are building up instead of building out. It's less expensive. And you're finding that people are getting into the apartment game and simply getting tenants in there and then upping their prices over and over and over. We need legislation against it. But is that a free market economy? It's all about supply and demand. If these apartments couldn't be leased, they wouldn't be raising those prices. I know it's unfair. That's why you have to buy. And that's harder than ever. This is the conundrum. If the Fed wasn't pushing these interest rates that they are, and if housing prices, because of commodities like wood and nails and cement and mortar and kitchen cabinets and all of that weren't exuberantly priced because of overall inflation, and the amount of quantity that's available is driving up the price, then houses wouldn't be where they're at. we need to get back to a kind of a level playing field here where the contractors and the developers can make a profit without gouging the client and the customer, which is you and me. Until that changes, this is why you have to vote for Trump. This is why you have to vote for conservative values. You have to deregulate. You have to allow the Fed to stop influencing the dollar and stop controlling it and manipulating the U.S. dollar. When you overspend and you spend more than you have, inflation, and you print off money to go ahead and fill that gap, that's exactly what inflation is. And the Fed manipulating that by telling people to stop taking loans and to stop buying and to force contrition is not healthy for the economy and ultimately will crash. So we got to get the Fed to lower. Now, like I said, the Fed have said they're going to do that 3 times with Biden, but he needs that. There's some stats that you guys can look up. Look up a few things. Look up when interest rates are high, how many Democrats have been voted out of office versus when they're low or in an election year, they're lowered, how many have stayed in office. Look at gas prices. Take a look at overall crime. Take a look at wages. Take a look at overseas conflicts. And you're going to see that Joe Biden is stacked up against it. Like it's almost like 95% of those categories, a Democrat has been voted out of office because Joe Biden is so south of those numbers. So there's a lot stacked against Biden right now. And the Democrats, they're bleeding. Don't let anyone tell you that we got Trump right where we want him. No, you don't. You didn't want Trump. They say they wanted Trump. They didn't want Trump. That was reverse psychology. They don't want Trump because Trump ignites his base. Nikki Haley is not going to, she never should be president. I told you that. I say 2028. Let her learn 4 years. Let her go in there. Let her be a master negotiator. Let her handle the geopolitical shit. Give her as much responsibility as you can. Let her get out there and have some conversations with Jordan and Saudi Arabia. Let a woman walk into these Middle Eastern countries as a freaking Indian sheik and light them up. Holy shit. I would love it. Saudi Arabia would shit on their sabers if Nikki Haley walked in a pastel blue skirt and walks in there and let's go, gentlemen. As an Indian woman, wow, I would pay for that. I would shave and put on a suit again for that. Yeah, Justin Trudeau, that's a whole nother problem. Oh my God, I'm behind. Trying to get to any questions. If you guys have a question, put a Q in front of it. It really helps me see those and it stands out so I can... Says a lot, Matt. Might as well shill. It's election season. Everyone else is. I don't know what that means. What does that mean, Ian? Are you calling me a shill? A shill is a person who uses talking points and for pay. Please tell me who's paying me. I would love to know that. It doesn't say a lot. The truth. I mean, Ian, I don't even know what you're talking about, dude. So clarify your statement or call in or whatever, dude. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for people who I'm just going to take my football and go home. Just go home. It's on an airport. You don't have to announce your departure. I'm not shilling for anybody. I'm telling you what I think, like I always do. Just because you don't like it doesn't matter. Who cares? You don't have to like it. Folks, 2 things. You can consider donating at LeakTapGo/TheDumbShow. Really appreciate what that does is help us because we don't shill for anybody. This is all paid for us. Everything you see, the lights, the cameras, the bandwidth, everything else that we do. We multi-stream to 8 different sites. We do news. We do all of that. Please help us out. It would mean a great deal for us. You can just go ahead and click Link Tap Go, and then you go there. It was somewhat of a compliment. It didn't sound like a compliment, Ian. That's why I said I didn't know what you were saying. You know me. I read it, and I'm like, I need more information. Matt, you are a complete shill and a douchebag. That would okay, well, thanks. I appreciate that, Ian. If you leave it circumspect, I'm going to give you a circumspect response. Okay, cool. It's okay to give me a compliment. Matt, I really like you. I'm not going to get confused by that. But anyway, you can go to Link Tap Go and help out the show. We would appreciate it. All donations 100% go to the show. It goes to nobody else. You can do it through PayPal or do it through this app, and your name will show up and you get a cool little dingy thingy and whatever. I also want to tell you guys about something that's kind of fun. I wasn't gonna release this. But whoever's on a computer or a phone right now, go to dumbbeef.com. Yes, we are getting into a few things. So I've got several promoters that have reached out to us. And these are people who are veterans. And it has to be American made. They have to be veterans. That's the number one. Those are the two qualifications for me. And I've had a water purification company reach out to me, and I have reverse osmosis in my house. And I'm a firm believer, especially living in the country, that RO or those type of systems are essential for healthy living, healthy skin, healthy, all that. So we have a company which doesn't do a RO. It's much cheaper than RO. My RO unit's like $8,000. He's got an amazing system for a couple $100, and it's unbelievable. We're getting that installed. I'm going to see if I love it. If I do, I'm going to endorse the guy. We've got a vendor who's working with us, an advertiser for gold, who is a gold broker, who's a veteran, and we're going to be working with that. But the one that's and then 1791 coffee. I might be changing my coffee brand and going with 1791. And still having the exact same type of coffee that we've always offered, which is fantastic. But we'll also have, granola bars and energy drinks and stuff like that are all not loaded with high fructose corn syrup and caffeine, and are just designed to kill you. Good stuff. So working on that. But the interesting thing is dumbbeef.com has officially launched. Now, I still have to go ahead and put my touch on it, but it's DUM beef. And you can get dehydrated, all American, no preservatives, no vax, no shots, no antibiotics, 10-year freeze-dried beef that you can actually have and store during an emergency. It's pretty cool. So we've tried a bit of it. We've got some videos we're working on, and the kids and wife and I will sit down and we'll try these products. And if we believe in them, we'll offer them. And if we don't, we won't. But it's really cool. So that was our first one. And Terry let me know last night. We're really excited to get it up because to see the kids' faces when you see dehydrated beef, they're like, what the hell is that? I mean, it looks like it looks like somebody, dehydrated a peach or something. And then you put it in water and mix it with some rice, and it's delicious. It's ridiculous. But anyway, so we'll talk about that. But we've got some options, and it's pretty neat. Anyway. Let's see what else we got here. Lost you on Rumble. Yeah, Stephanie, Rumble had an error. I don't know, critical error. So I'm bummed out. So I'm sorry about that. I apologize. Hopefully we can get that back. All right, wrapping up. Okay. So I already read that one. Sorry, Ian, I wasn't mad at you. I didn't know what you were saying. The question, how do you feel about the Michigan governor asking citizens to house migrants in their homes? I've seen a couple of viewers concerned about it. Well, I think Governor Whitmer's an idiot. There's no, I mean, just because she's if you're into MILFs, she's a smoke show. But I've always think, I don't know why. I remember when in 2016, State of the Union, 2017, I think it was, Donald Trump and then Whitmer came on. I'm like, oh shit, we're in trouble. Because, dude, she was polished that night. She looked amazing that night. And she delivered the Democrats' State of the Union really well. And I'm like, oh crap, if that woman runs, we're in shit trouble. She's crazy at this point. And I've heard her enough that she's not a threat. But she's nuts. And her policies are nuts. She's socialist progressive, and she's always been that way. However, here's the problem. She is the most popular female Democrat in the Democrat Party. She has the highest approval rating for a governor out of any state. I don't know how to tell you. I don't know how to tell you anything different. Democrats love her. Michigan loves her. It baffles me. But Whitmer is very popular. Don't be surprised if you see her as a possible conversation in 2028, because I think a Whitmer and a Newsom ticket is dangerous. But I think a Youngkin and a Haley ticket is better. That would be the fight of the century. You got young. Woo! You got Nikki Haley versus Whitmer. Whew. And Youngkin versus Newsom. Holy shit. What a race that. Dude, if proverbial boner all day long. I'm just telling you. I would celebrate. Yeah, you can't hear that. Yeah, there it goes. Could you hear that? Test. Okay, you heard that. Good. Because I think that would just be like the proverbial perfect ticket for both sides, and I would love that. Newsom, Whitmer, Haley, Youngkin. Oof. I got chills. Linda says, do your research and you'll find out, not a conspiracy theory. What? Why do you guys do that? Not include me in these conversations. Linda, Kristen Sinema dropped out of the Senate race. Great news for Kari Lake. Kinda, yeah. Yeah. Haley took Democrat donors' money for her campaign. Rhino. That doesn't make her a rhino because Donald Trump went and took money from BlackRock. He took money from the Koch brothers. What are you talking about, Linda? Is Donald Trump a rhino because he took Democrat money? You don't think he had meetings with Wall Street? You don't think he had meetings with Chase Bank? Sachs? You don't think Donald Trump had meetings with defense contractors? You don't think that, like I said, he didn't meet with Vanguard and BlackRock? Because he did. Is he a rhino now? In a national election, you take money however you can. It doesn't mean it's going to change your policy. Sorry. It's like when you guys said that DeSantis was George Soros' plant. But Vivek Ramaswamy actually took his college tuition from them, and he was big pharma. But you guys like Vivek Ramaswamy. Tulsi Gabbard is the most liberal progressive there is in Congress when she was there. And you guys don't call her a rhino. It just baffles me. What talking points are we going to go ahead and espouse today? Linda says, Texas fires burnt down 1.25 million acres with thousands of cattle. New World Order, elite Democrats. Dude, okay. Linda, you got to take the cue and just stop smoking it, okay? Was it space layers? Did the Jews do it? Did the Jewish space lasers hit the cattle? Texas was overdue for a massive wildfire. I lived there for a long time. So I don't know what you want me to tell you. Do you think the new world... Okay. Do your research and you'll find out. Why do you guys always say do your research? You know what that means? Do your research means I don't have any evidence whatsoever, so you can go find it for me. That's what it means. Why don't you just link the evidence? Show me. Show me. Show me how Hillary Clinton's a lizard person too, please. Educate me. Tell me about Guantanamo Bay. Tell me about the military tribunals. Please tell me about George Soros working with Nazis in Buenos Aires to overthrow the election. Please tell me all these things. Show me. That Joe Biden's a clone, that Hillary Clinton was executed. Show me these things. Teach me. Educate me. Research me. Here, this is for you. Do I have it? Yes, here.
It's all part of the plan.
Part of the plan. It's part of the plan. Everybody just keep waiting. Donald Trump's coming back. Donald Trump is going to come back, hopefully in 2024. But and then you know what you guys are going to do? See, he came back. I told you he's still running the country. Stop it. I'm not trying to make fun of you, but you're smarter than this. I know you're smarter than this. This isn't the National Enquirer. This isn't the WWF. This isn't Fantasyland. You give the government too much credit. I worked for the government. I know what they're not capable of. They're not capable of much. You need to stop. You need to stop reading the book. You're at the right place now. Welcome home. Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me Show. We'll help you. You'll never hear me say, do your research. I'll just go ahead and give you the facts. I'll give you the places to go. I'll tell you what the truth is because you're not hearing it. And it's not that I'm the bearer of truth. Everybody has this ability. Everybody can actually look up everything they read and go, You know what my viewers do? I love them now. They send me messages. Matt, is this real or not? I'm like, why are you asking? You've been watching my show. So you know what they do? You know what? I'm not going to consume this. I know for a fact I looked it up and I found out it wasn't true. And I'm like, hell yes, you have the power. I'm nothing special. I'm just a guy with a mouse. Expensive mouse, but it's a mouse. I'm a guy with an extremely flat keyboard. Just like you. I put my pants on the same way. 3 legs at a time. There's nothing that I have that you don't possess. You have the same brain. You just have to use it. Stop. Why would we trivialize the 1.25 million acres and blame it on something that it's not so it can happen again? Texas is on fire. California was on fire. What about Hurricane Harvey? I was there. You were too, it sounds like. It sounds like you were a little further away than me. Was that cloud seeding? Was that HARP who did that? Who killed those people? Who put my entire city underwater? Was that HARP? Do you think I haven't done my research? Do you think I don't know what you're talking about? I do know what you're talking about. Do you think I don't understand that it was the biolabs in Ukraine, the bioweapon labs that started the fire in Texas? Is that it? Was it Vladimir Putin trying to stop the biolabs in Texas? Those cattle had some sort of, some agent inside of them that was going to eliminate all of America. So Vladimir Putin went ahead and started the fire to go ahead and protect all of us. Is that what it was? Was it the Ukrainians? Was it Zelensky? Is that where all the receipts were to the Dominion servers were inside those cows? I've researched everything you're talking about because why? Because this is what I do for a living. And you folks come on my show all the time and I'm baffled. I used to get angry at you. Now I just feel sorry. There is no plan. There's never been a plan. The plan, if there is one, is money, power, and votes. And you are not in any way, shape, or form a part of that equation. There are two classes in this country. There's the ruling class, and then there's everyone else. And we can sit here and pretend that I make more money than you or my house is nicer. No, those are all semantics. Those are just window dressing as we go into the grave. We are no longer in charge of what happens in this country, and in fact, we never have been. It's been illusion, and it's time to go ahead and take it back. The only way we do that is at the state and local level. If we're voting in a national election and assume it's going to change anything, it won't. Very little that the president of the United States does impacts you and me. If you look at the ebb and flow of taxes and overall wealth, it's just a roller coaster, and it doesn't matter who president is. Sometimes you pay more, sometimes you get more back. Sometimes you have less, sometimes you have more. That's the way it works. And in the end, the only thing the president truly is supposed to impact is the security and sovereignty of this country and to protect and defend this country. That's it. That's their job. Yet we've embodied them with some sort of power of being the second coming of Christ or somebody that we should admire and show fealty to. I'm sorry, no man is king. This country is lost because too many people are listening to the wrong people. The right people, it has nothing. Anyone that sit here and tells you, I have all the answers, is immediately the person you should turn off. If there is anyone out there that says you have to come here in order to get the truth, those people should never be listened to. It's the person who says, I don't know everything. Let's learn together. The person who says, I don't know. Can you tell me? The person that says, here, let me show you what I would do, and here's what I came up with. What do you think? Those are the people you want to listen to. And whether that's me or somebody else, that's the only thing that matters. Because the person who wants to teach you how to smell out the truth and smell a lie like a fart in a car is the person you want to listen to. And I don't want you to keep coming back here. I want you to come here, take what you can from me, and take it, use it, lose it. Take what I'm saying, use it to your advantage or don't, and then lose it. Move on. If you come back multiple times, that's fantastic. Love to have you. I would rather have you learn how to do this shit yourself so I don't have to keep doing it every day. You're being lied to for money. You're being lied to for clicks. You're being lied to so people move up and gain more followers and gain more profit. I asked for donations at the beginning of the show and the middle of the show and the end of the show one time. I don't pimp you a bunch of commercials. I don't try to sell you hair tonic for men. There's things that I agree with. There's things that I don't. And if I can make a profit doing this, I will. But I will never sell my message to the highest bidder, ever. That's my resume. And the people who've been following me for 3 years know that. And it may be few, but damn it, we're drinking milk and we're growing. There it is. Good talk. Ready, break. Any other questions? Doesn't take start fires like that. Get some evidence of space lasers before we start the NWO stuff. Amen. 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 Kanaya It's an interesting name. I honestly believe the GOP wanted it to happen like this, Nikki, lasting all the way to Super Tuesday, so they can show Donald J. Trump's dominance and support from the people. No. No. Okay. You believe. Never mind. You're totally entitled to your opinion. I don't agree with it, but that's okay. The GOP has no interest in showing anything positive about Donald Trump. The GOP has done nothing to support Donald Trump. They fought him in 16, they fought him in 17, they fought him in 18, they fought him in 20. They're fighting him now. None of them will stand up for him. Only a pocket and a few. The RNC and GOP are not the friend of the United States. They're not a friend to you and I. They don't care about us. They care about power. They care about donations. They care about fundraising. If we're going to sit here and say Ukraine is a money laundering scheme, how can you not say the misappropriation of funds? The RNC is broke. All that money we give to them, do you know where it went? I don't. I know where it went. Some of it went to opposing candidates. So we lost states like Georgia and Arizona. Do you remember that? Do you remember the misappropriation of money from Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy? I sure do. Do you remember the PAC money that Kevin McCarthy gave to shills like MTG and Lauren Boebert? Even though, and they voted for Kevin McCarthy to stay in, but I thought they were Trump through and through. Those aren't rhinos. MTG and Lauren Boebert aren't rhinos. Lauren Boebert didn't even show up for the vote with McCarthy, and MTG stood by his side. Why? Because she took PAC money from him. $180 some odd thousand she took from him. You wonder why she stood next to McCarthy? None of these people care about you. None of these people care about who you are. There's only a handful. Eli Crane, Kat Kamik, Jim Jordan. These are the people who actually care about the American people. Steve Scalise. These are people who are the good guys. Chip Roy. You may not agree with them all the time. You may not like what they have to say. And sometimes I don't. But there are some people who are actually decent human beings in Congress. The ones that we emulate and the ones that we put forward are not. Marjorie Taylor Greene's a fucking idiot. I'm sorry. Jewish space lasers? Really? Whew. I probably lost some viewers because I said that. I don't care. She's an idiot. She's just as bad as AOC. AOC's an idiot too. So's Tlaib. So's Ilhan Omar. They're all idiots. That's the best we can do, really? That's the best we can do? Give me a break. Texas has had 30 fires in the last 3 years. Oh my God. Texas had fires? Were they the lowest rains in 30 years too? Maybe. It's possible. I don't know. I didn't look it up. Would you like me to look it up? First question I have. Texas has 30 fires in the last 3 years, most in history. That's bullshit. Texas has a shit ton more fires than 30. I can mention 30 in a summer, and that was just in Houston. Fires happen all the time in Texas. Are you telling me something that the size of Texas, that you're kidding me? 30 fires in 3 years, huh? Stop. Let go, Linda. Let go. Oh, let it go. Anna and Elsa this for me, please. Damn it, Matthew. Call me out if I tell Sarah to be careful, but ignore comments I'd love for you to read. Which one, dude? Just tell me. Matt, read this. Danny says, I'm curious, when are the armies of chaos going to activate here? What? It sounds like a biker gang. Sounds like a mall biker gang. The army of chaos is coming. What army are we talking about? What army are we talking about? Sorry, checking my email real quick. Okay. I hear the Texas. Okay, Danny, I'm not going to repeat it. I'm done. I'm just not going to do it. Yeah, I heard what Psaki said. I remember what Psaki said. She's like, they were talking about insulting West Virginians. Virginia does share a border with West Virginians. Dude, they just hate. They hate people who are not like them. I was a part of that group. I had the ties and the suits and the expensive car and the corporate job and stocks, and I did the yuppie thing. Yeah, never again. Yeah, just not going to do it. So screw them. They hate us. So what? In 2016, Trump donated $175,860 to Democrats. Did Haley? What? What are you talking about? What do you mean he took his salary and donated it to Democrats? No, because Haley wasn't president. He's also a billionaire. She also has, do you know how much money she's donated to charity? Linda, please, just go away. I'm not going to be able to help you. Just bless you, my son. Get out. All you can do is look up her tax returns. You can find out how much. Yes, Haley's given a shit ton to charities. Most Christians do. Why is this about Donald Trump? You just said because she took money from Democrats and big donors that she's a rhino. Well, then so's Donald Trump. But because he gave up his salary, he's no longer a rhino, but he still took money from those countries. So all Nikki Haley has to do is give up her salary, and now she's no longer a rhino. Linda, you need to stop. It's too early. It's not early anymore. It was early. Let's see. Boom. Thank you. The RNC is nobody's friend. Boobert. Yeah, Lauren Boebert. You know. Boebert. How did Steve Garvey do? I think he 0.2% over Adam Schiff so far. Count's not completely done, but he's doing well. I'm proud of him. Violet says, I like that you speak your mind, Matt. Makes me feel like I'm not alone and just cynical. MTG is an effing idiot. Facts. Yeah, it is facts. 100%. You're going to get fires if you get really wet springs. Right. And then if it's not wet in the summer, yeah, because it's 175 degrees in the shade in Texas. Insurgency continues. I don't understand why people keep saying that. So let's just say there's an insurgency, okay? Pick a state. How about Oklahoma? Okay, great. Oklahoma, all the migrants come in there. They form a military union. And let's say 10,000 of them arm themselves with what? ARs? Cool. As if Gaza hasn't taught us anything. And we have weapon systems that are 100 times more powerful than Israel and a lot more of them. What do their logistical supply lines look like in Oklahoma? How are they going to get refueled? How are they going to get food? How are they going to get water? What shelter are they going to take? Okay, so standing army, yeah, let's go ahead and scrap that one. How about an individual cell, a terrorist cell? Great. Considering that every banned substance on the planet is only sold in a certain amount of consumption, we learned that from Oklahoma City bombing. Why do you think they're not continuing to happen? Okay, fine. So they're going to go in a small bomb like a pressure cooker. Yeah, good luck finding a pressure cooker. Go to any thrift store and try to find one. Go. Try to find a pressure cooker. One without a regulated valve seal. You want to know? They're not around anymore. I'm going to Joe Biden this. They're not around anymore. Why? Well, because they've been rounded up. See, that's the thing about attacks is we learn how to become not reactive, but proactive. And we learn how to take necessary steps in order to not replicate these things that happen. I don't think we should have legal age military type legal immigrants come into our country. I'm not saying I'm for it. What I'm saying is that to go to the other end of the extreme and be against that and say that there's a standing army in the United States is a ridiculous notion. And I've just given you variant degrees. Standing army, small pockets of resistance, or a singular lone event that all are fairly not viable. They can happen, and I'm not saying they won't. I'm not saying a mass shooting won't happen by an illegal immigrant. In fact, I believe that that's on the docket any day now. But a mass scale conflict from the people who are coming across the border, it's very doubtful. Okay? Very doubtful. Communication is one thing. I don't think you understand the capabilities of the United States government when it comes to counterterrorism, counterespionage, especially in the U.S. on our soil. I just can't go into it any more than that. I can just tell you that there is a reason why there hasn't been a major attack since 9/11. And there hadn't been precluding that except for Pearl Harbor. So, and both of them happened for the same reason, a complete intelligence failure. Do I believe our intelligence system is much more advanced than both of those dates? Yes. Do I believe our human intelligence apparatus is much more advanced? Yes. Do I believe that we have overseas dependence on human intelligence versus electronic intelligence to protect our borders? Yes. So before it even gets here, we have word one coming from overseas because we have the human intelligence apparatuses in place to ensure that any rumblings of something happening, we're going to find out about. I may not have a lot of faith in our FBI. I may not have a lot of faith in certain government, but being an intel guy, I kind of have faith in our intelligence. I haven't had faith in the past. I'm feeling much better today. iPhones suck? What? No, they don't. I'm popping smoke here in 15, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes. These people have never seen Oklahoma? Nope. Denial is a long river. No, it's a river in Egypt. See, Danny, this is what you do. And this is why people tend not to like you, is because you throw temper tantrums. You're assuming that you know more about me than mass insertion, guerrilla warfare, and I don't understand what makes you think you're qualified. So you may read some things or you may have some uneasy feelings, but you can't back it up. Because first of all, you don't have the ability. And if you had the ability, you wouldn't say denial is a long river. You would make contradictory points to what I just said, which you're incapable of. So instead, you go to petulant replies and retorts because you don't feel comfortable because your narrative is you're not able to prove it. So I just gave you 3 viable examples of what could be done from a massive scale, a moderate scale, and a singular individual event, and how the United States has prevented these events and narrowed them down to really what comes down to someone renting a vehicle, or someone creating a bomb that isn't on the list, or someone bringing something into this country from the southern border, like a certain weapon system, are all possible. But what you're upset about is that it hasn't happened, and you believe it's going to happen. And that is much different than fact, because we can only go off what we're saying. If you look at terrorist cells in the United States, you can actually see every single terrorist cell in the United States that's being monitored by the FBI, that's being monitored by the NSA from a communication standpoint. The NRO is involved from a satellite tasking standpoint, watching these hotspots. It's not like this information is not open to you. Did I say that there could not possibly be a mass attack in the United States? No. Did I say the probability of that not being quashed immediately once it rises up? I'm asking you to explain to me about logistics, about shelter, resupply, food, water. Where do you retreat to? Where do you fall back to? How do you handle, when you're in the middle of Oklahoma, the 175,000 guns that are going to be in every frickin' 5 square miles from in a densely populated area? How are you going to solve that problem? So for anyone to think that there could be a mass sustained army in the United States really hasn't paid attention to U.S. history, because it's never happened. It doesn't mean it can't, but a mass invasion of that scale is going to require air or it's going to require sea, and we dominate both. And not only do we have over-the-horizon targeting capability that no other country has, we don't even need to get within 500 miles of anyone trying to go ahead and get into our country. We have technology that can sit back 500 miles, and they won't even get a warning that something's been fired off. They won't even see us on radar. Imagine what a group of people who come over from the southern border tried to do. I think you might just be a little paranoid. Just a little bit. I didn't say an attack can't happen. I didn't say that there wouldn't be a lone event. I didn't say that. But when people are like, when do you think they're going to activate the standing army inside the United States? Never. And by the way, if you want to look at my resume, we were responsible for taking North Korean SDVs that would actually come in, sleeper cells, into South Korea, finding those groups, targeting those groups, and killing those groups. So I know a little bit about mass insertion. I can also tell you about a couple of other things if you want to know too, but my resume is better than yours. Okay, anyway, moving on. I have a pressure cooker. Yes, you do, but does it have a safety valve on it? It has a valve. Of course it does. You can't find those anymore. They're not in thrift stores. Remember when grills had glass fronts? I had a scary blowout. I did too. I had the exact same thing happen. My right burner didn't ignite. I didn't know. So all that propane came in, and then finally it lit, and it created such a force, it popped out that glass and shattered it. It scared the shit out of me. The government is aiding this invasion. Can't deny that and be real. What are you talking about the border? When did I say that the government isn't aiding in mass illegal immigration? I never said that. You said, see, this is the thing. You're changing your topic, Daniel. You don't get to do that. You said, when are they going to release the Chaos Army? Or never. Because there is no Chaos Army. There might be pockets and cells that are being watched right now, of course. And why? Well, because you don't necessarily go ahead and eliminate groups like that. It's just like drug trade on the streets. You don't want to go after the small dealer. You want to go after the big fish. So you make some deals with a small person, get their trust, and go ahead and do whatever you want to do. If you think that groups like the FBI, CIA, the NSA are not infiltrating these groups, you're crazy. I think you need to understand that not everything is a giant conspiracy to destroy the United States, considering that we have a weapon that can do that right now. I think we need to lay off the end of times crap. That the government is trying to kill all of us. If the government wanted to kill all of us, that's a very simple thing to do. Because all you'd have to do is just, listen, I'm not going to say anything. Who controls our water systems? How long do you think it would take to go ahead and do something at a high level like ricin, to do something that has very few telling effects until after it's ingested and could take 3 to 5 days to 3 weeks to kill you? You don't think that can happen? If the government wanted to kill us, they'd kill us. We need to stop. Okay? This isn't the show, Danny. You come out and sometimes it's so good and other times it's just so frustrating. I don't know what to tell you, dude. I don't know what to tell you. Matt, you should do life lessons or something. I like your input. Well, thanks, Suze. Freedom is scary. That's good news, Linda. Good job, Matt. Great show. I'll catch you about it. Okay. See you, Danny. Bye. Peace. Have a good one. Be safe. Woohoo. Live action Red Dawn, maybe. No. See, I'm going to do one more thing and then we're going to go. It's nice to have so many people on. This is our show for tonight. We're not doing a show. And recorded show, I might do one, but I got to go do articles and stuff, and then I got to get ready for Hayden's play tonight. So this will be the show for tonight. So I might replay it. The thing I'll say is this, and if you haven't gone outside and liked the show, please do that. It makes an impact, and we had almost 100 on, so I know we didn't. You guys got to do that. The United States government is designed to do one thing. The United States government is designed to keep order in the United States, period. That's what they're designed to do. And in order to keep order, or in an effort to keep order, you have to have stability. You have to have safety. You have to have reoccurring life structure, water, food, air. You have to have some sort of appeasement or levity in order to keep the human mind free and happy. This is the government's ultimate focus, is to keep healthy and happy people to an extent and have them produce. Government decides to do this in different ways. Some do it from a totalitarian standpoint. Some do it from a dictatorial standpoint. Some do it from a monarchy. Some do it from an oligarchy. Some people do it from a democracy or a republic. Some do it from a theocratic rule. But all of them get varying results. Now, the most successful country in the world has always and forever, since our inception, it's been the United States of America. How did I lose a follower? That doesn't happen ever. Somebody fix that now. No, just kidding. So that has been the United States. And the United States has been a leader in all of those quadrants since its inception. It's not conducive for the United States to not have taxpayers. How they go about to create taxpayers is the dilemma, where one side of the party believes it should be Americanized and it should be nationalized, where Americans have children and cyclically reproduce the populace generationally. And Democrats who believe in abortion, which is counterintuitive to growing the population, and also allow crime in the inner cities, 37 of the top 50 being liberal cities, have a population problem. And the way that they do that, because they can't necessarily fix the voting farms, which are the inner cities, the modern-day slave plantations, and they can't stop supporting the abortion and murder of children, they allow illegals to come in the country to supplement that endeavor. So it's not that all governments don't do the same thing. It's that these governments do it in different ways. Do you understand? So when people say the New World Order and the U.S. government is trying to kill its citizens, it's completely antithetical to what they are designed to do. It is completely antithetical to what we've always done. It's not that they want to kill us. It's that there is a very large portion of the party which is killing us. They are killing African-American youth. They are creating these modern-day slave plantations. Hundreds of thousands, millions of people are impacted by this. And when people have less kids and you support LGBTQ lifestyle, which has a 100 times lower rate of having children than an atypical couple of a man and a woman, a real man and a real woman, when you support abortion and you allow unfettered murder to happen in these cities and these shootings and keeping these kids down with fatherless homes, you have an effort in depopulation. So to circumvent that depopulation and take that away, they bring in illegal immigration and they allow unfettered access, knowing that these people will come in, they will be poor, they will matriculate to the cities, and they will gain voters over time. Well, wait a second, illegals can't vote. Their kids can. And that's the growing population inside the Democratic Party, the younger generation voters. That's why they want to go ahead and have a boner over DACA and naturalization. They want to allow people who are 16 to vote, and they want to allow felons to vote. It's not hard. If you just listen to who they are, they will tell you. So can we please stop talking about the New World Order and George Soros and the UN is going to come over and take over the United States? The Democrats are doing just fine doing that. They are completely rebuilding our country as they see fit. And the only way they can do that is keep them in power. But Republicans actually have to solve some problems. You have to address the border and immigration and get policy passed. You actually have to focus on abortion and make it what it used to be, what they sold us it was going to be, which is an emergency situation. And out of those 67 million babies that have been killed, we could have saved 60 million of them because we're not using it for birth control. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to figure out how to go ahead and stop the level of crime in these inner cities and break it up. It's not hard. It takes effort, and it takes Republicans to actually have a proposal. So it goes back to the beginning. Let's get a party platform. You know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see the Republicans come out and say every single inner city, we are going to take $100 billion. Yeah, $100 billion. And we are going to go ahead and make a contract with the cities. And we are going to buy and renovate property which is no longer being used by businesses. And we are going to go ahead and do a 1/3 ratio. We're going to build 2/3 homes to a 1/3 business. We are going to subsidize companies to come in here and give them an incentive and a tax incentive to open up their businesses across the railroad tracks and to provide jobs in the inner city. We are then going to use the rest of that money to expand the police force and create gang task force, which go in and nail these guys who are creating the crime and the drug distribution in these environments. We are going to make it safe for the people to actually stand up against these elements and take their neighborhoods back. Once we have that crime establishment in jail where they belong, we're going to start cleaning up the cities. And we're going to make an investment. If you want a job and you want to go ahead and learn a trade, we're going to take some of that $100 billion and we're going to invest it in your communities, and it's going to be a 10% pay, which means you can have that job guaranteed. You can interview for it. We will train you. We will teach you. We will subsidize that cost. You won't owe them anything, but the businesses will owe the U.S. government that money back. And the first year of your overall profits, because you will boom and you will grow and you will be in neighborhoods that have been starving for this type of business, you owe the United States government a 17% overall repay on whatever we invested for your business. You give them a loan. You put it at an interest rate that makes sense. You have them stay in for 5 years. They do a 17% profit share that goes back to the government. And then you have people trained who have a skill set, and you create generational job growth inside these inner cities. But you better have the police force to back it up, and you better clear the dirty politicians who are in there. That's how you do it. It's not hard. You look, Matt, you can't do that for $100 billion. Bullshit. Bullshit. You can go into Baltimore. You can go into Detroit. You can go into Pittsburgh. You can go into Miami. You can go into Los Angeles, Crenshaw, Oxnard, and you can go ahead and rehab these cities based upon what I just said. You go in and you buy the property that's non-business related, you build homes or you build apartments, and you put businesses in there to support those people, and you slowly take it over. This happened in Cherry Creek, Colorado. It completely changed Colorado. They took a Cherry Creek model and they put it in a place called 5 Points, and they did the same thing. And they slowly, on both ends, started building up businesses and incentivizing businesses to come in. They cleaned up those areas of the neighborhood, and slowly and slowly and slowly, you surrounded the crime element, and then you forced them the fuck out and put them in jail. And then the rest of those profits were forfeit, and the community survived with business. It's not that hard. 5 Points is one of the most luxurious places you can go to now for the average middle-class person in Colorado. It's gorgeous. It's not hard. You just have to do it. You have to care. But instead, what do? We close down. Businesses close who can't be successful because there's 1,700 different restaurants all within a block in a white neighborhood. They shut down. They go bankrupt. Instead, how about we do this? If you're about to foreclose on your business that didn't survive, like the 17 restaurants in the same spot for 10 years, how about this? We offer to relocate you in the U.S. government into an impoverished neighborhood or on the outskirts, and we promise to have police there. We will not allow the ruffian crew in there. You can be selective, and you can open up there for no charge. We'll relocate your business, we'll pay your first year's lease, and we'll move you so you don't shut down and take a tax loss, which hurts our profit, and we're going to reinvest in these inner city neighborhoods. Do you want to lose your business, or do you want your business to thrive? You pick. Actually, I don't want to go in the inner city. Fuck you, you're done. Next, I'll take it. Okay, sweet, you go here. Next, well, this business has been in my family for 5 generations. Yes, and it's going to liquidate. What do you want to do? We'll take the relocation. Sweet. And then you go to these neighborhoods and you say, new openings, jobs, and you hire these kids and you bring them in and you give them a skill set. You give them a trade. and you teach them instead of importing white people from the other areas and these other prospering cities and states, or excuse me, cities and towns, and you fill it with the actual people in the impoverished neighborhoods, which means, oh my God, you might have a demographic that actually represents the neighborhood. Yes, you might have an all-black staff. Woe is fucking me. White people, get used to it. Black people are fucking amazing. So are Mexicans. And everyone looks and goes, oh, you're a white Nazi Trump supporter. You know what? Fuck you. I worked on federal in Florida, okay? My entire staff was Mexican. They didn't speak English. We worked together. I worked in Houston Comcast, every single store, all 23 stores. I had 90% black employees. And yes, the white massa was in charge. And guess what? We had a great relationship. And we would go into the stores and we would listen to Pac and we would listen to freaking Fab Five Freddy and Cool Mo D and KRS-One because this white boy actually likes rap music. And I didn't treat them like they were black. And they didn't treat me like I was white. We just had a good time. And we had a lot of money and we crushed it. And our district was amazing. This isn't just a black problem, it's a white problem. And white people are afraid to go in and make a difference. But I'm telling you, the real people, the true Mexicans, the true Asians, the women, the men, doesn't matter, gay, straight, they want you there. But you won't go there. So before we sit here and go ahead and go, oh, another 67 kids were shot in Chicago. You know what? It's your fault too. You're not doing anything about it. You're not opening your businesses in there. You're not trying to take a stand, but what we can't do is do it piecemeal. It's got to be a full court press. You got to have the infrastructure for the police. You've got to have the politicians that are actually going to sign the dotted line and spend the money. You have got to go ahead and put those businesses in place and have the residential capacity for those areas and get them out of the slums, and you do it all at once, and you take over that area. But if you don't do it, it'll never happen. So you want to win? Start proposing some ideas that actually change this country. Give me a break. Or let's just give another $150 billion to Ukraine. Let's build their country up while our country suffers. All right, folks, that's it for me tonight. Thanks for watching. I will not be on tonight. I will be on tomorrow. It's the State of the Union, so I will be on. We can do it together. It'll be a fun old time, and we can watch Joe Biden stumble through and mumble through and fumble through the State of the Union. Do me a favor, if you have not had a chance, and you haven't, you can donate to the show at linktapgo/thedumbshow. You click on that, you'll see a donation button. It helps out. Give anything you want. It goes through PayPal, helps us out. Linda, thanks for sticking around. I appreciate you. I know it was tough. I'm not trying to hurt you. Let me read your comment. It says, I'm great. Shelters back during the Cold War were not luxury like they are now. If you don't need a bunker to be luxurious, then why are the rich building them? Guessing they know that they might have to live in their bunker for many months or longer. I think the rich are building bunkers because the rich are terrified, just like there were people in those times, in the times of McCarthyism. And the rich have the means. Let me ask you a question. In this day and age, would you build a bunker if you had an indiscretionary fund of a couple $100,000? The answer is yes. So would I. I would definitely put a bunker on my property if I could. So people are scared because people believe there's going to be, for the first time since the 80s and 90s, that there's a possibility of a nuclear war. I think we need to relax a little bit. Okay? I think we just need to take a breath. And the best advice I can give you before we go is that either you believe in God or you don't. And if you do, then you should have faith. I don't have that luxury. I'm working on it, and I'm constantly expanding myself to have more faith. And I know it's a mustard seed of faith, and that's stupid because if you have any faith, you either do or you don't. So a mustard seed is all you need. Well, that's a lot because faith is faith. But either you believe that it's under control or it's not under control. And all I can tell you is that a lot of people are terrified and living in fear and missing some very good things in life. I would ask you to slow down. It doesn't mean don't be aware. It doesn't mean don't be frosty. It doesn't mean don't have your head on a swivel. But you got to understand is that if there truly is good versus evil in this world, then it's not necessarily a fight that we're responsible in having, but we should still uphold our contract with our Lord and Savior to be the very best and to emulate the things that he would want. I think that's a fair contract to try to fulfill. It's a bite-sized contract that every single person can do, which is to treat your neighbor with love, to follow the basic rules of nature and the laws of this land. And if you do that, then you are most assuredly on the side of good. And when your time comes to make a choice between good and evil, you will have your chance to pick. But we have to be careful with being so fearful and so tied up into that thinking that ultimately it monopolizes our thoughts, and we essentially create that alternate reality for ourselves. And it's how we treat our neighbor, and it's how we treat everybody who we disagree with. If we can find a way to be more amicable, I will tell you that people who have been watching my show will tell you this is the longest I've gone without flipping out on somebody. I think it's been like 2-3 months now. And I think I've finally reached a state of calm in the way I do this show. And to be cognizant of how I treat people and how I treat things that I find stupid or I treat people who I find annoying is to create some sort of even keel and not allow it to monopolize my day. If you can find a way to do that and to have your thoughts independent of influence from other people, unless you want that to happen, dare I say that you're going to be constantly looking for the next fear to replace what you're currently feeling. And when that doesn't happen, you'll move on to the next thing. And to me, fear jumping and fear porn are the reason why we are where we are today. Everyone's afraid. Nazis are going to take over. Muslims are going to come over and take over the United States and import Sharia law. Remember that from the Tea Parties? Nuclear war, murder hornets, COVID, solar flares, the ozone, fluorocarbons, global warming, nuclear China syndrome. It's always something. So until we learn to maintain our fear and stop allowing it to control our decisions, then every fear is damaging beyond reproach. Because when the real threat comes and the real issue comes, we're not going to recognize it. Because we're going to be so anesthetized to constantly living in fear that we won't recognize the true evil. That we'll think that it's not real when we hear about child sex trafficking. We'll believe it's not real when we see a former president, who is being targeted simply because he's running for office, and everyone knows if he wasn't, he wouldn't be targeted. When we see what's going on in the Middle East and what's going on overseas, when we see what's happening with fentanyl, when we see what's happening in our inner city, if we would just stop and really focus on the true things that deserve our attention, maybe we wouldn't miss so much. But alas, maybe I'm naive. I want to thank somebody. I want to just say something quick. I had a viewer reach out to me in regards to addiction to opiates. And a lot of my viewers know that I was habitually dependent, which means that it was a necessity in order to move, walk, talk, and perform on a very heavy amount of opiates. And then I was addicted, which means that I was dependent by the feeling and choice. And one is synonymous with the other. Most people are habitual and then become addicts. And I was on it because of the way it made me feel, or more importantly, how it didn't make me feel. Amy, thank you, by the way. And let me be clear with you. And I'm going to be very, very vague here because this person has asked for anonymity and I'm going to give it to him, but I believe it can help other people. If you are on 10 325s right now of Percocet and you take 5 or 6 a day and you've been doing it for more than 14 days, you are officially habitual. You don't know it yet. Now, the first time I ran with Oxycontin and Percocets, I came off of it after about 2 months. And I had the worst. I thought I had malaria. I'm not going to get into details, but I got so dehydrated. I had to go to the doctor, and I quit smoking at the same time. And so I stopped the medicine. So I didn't make a correlation. I was going through withdrawals. Not until I went through my big withdrawals, like horrible, like pain, 2 months in a room, losing 40 pounds, chipping my teeth, having restless leg syndrome where my wife had to strap my legs down and wrap it in 4 or 5 heating pads and have it with big rubber bands so my legs would stop shaking. Having to jump into bath with scalding water that I had blisters on my body, but it felt better than shaking to death. The first time was very mild, but flu-like symptoms: exhausted, tired, sweating, diarrhea, cotton mouth, weight loss, dehydration. Those were on 4 or 5 perks a day, 10 325s, 10 milligrams of codeine and 325 of Tylenol or ibuprofen, depending upon the mix, 10 500s, 10 325s. And I learned that when I went to the doctor and he's talking to me, he runs blood tests and everything. And I'm like, dude, I can't stop. It's been 14 days. And I'm like, is it because of the cigarettes? And he looks at me and goes, yeah, it's because of the cigarettes. And I'm like, this guy thinks I'm a fucking addict. He ran a blood test. He saw the opioids in my system. I reflect on that now, but I didn't know his tone and I didn't understand it. But my wife was there and he thought I was a closet codeine freak. And I didn't even know I was addicted. I was only on it for 2 months. Little did I know that they would become the fight of my life. And those 10 325s, you're most certainly addicted to them, but you can jump off. And the real simple ways to do this is if you have 10 pills left, turn those into 40. Or turn those 10 into 20 by cutting them in half. And then on your normal cycle, when you would take one, take a half. And you're not going to get the high. You're not even going to feel it, but it's going to stop the sweats and it's going to take the edge off and it's going to stop the massive withdrawal. Then after 3 days, cut them into quarters. Then you should probably have 30 of those things or whatever it would be. And then every hour you take a quarter. Then when you're supposed to take one, take it to your next time. And you go ahead and you go to a half. So instead of taking 2 in that time period, and break into a quarter, you would take 2 over like a 4 or 5 hour and then stretch yourself out. Then cut those into quarters. And when you're finally down to 1 quarter a day, then you jump. And the jump is the hardest thing to do. The jump is terrifying. You've already went through withdrawal, but you haven't. That's controlled withdrawal. It's very different. You might get a little nervous. You might get a little upset stomach. You might sweat a little bit, but it is not full withdrawal. And no matter how much you step down, you will go through full withdrawal. And even that quarter tablet from taking 6, even that 2.5 milligrams versus taking 60 a day, keeps you from going into full withdrawal. And when you jump, just know that you're going to hit hard. But there's different levels of hitting. When I jumped, I was taking 400 milligrams of Oxycontin a day, oxycodone. And then I was taking 120 milligrams of slow-release OxyContin with Valium and Ambien. If you took 1/10 of what I took, it would kill you. This person who is going through the addiction, I took 60 milligrams before 10 a.m. I would stay in bed till 10 so I could fill all the pills in my day. I went to a pharmacist and told him that I was going to follow him outside his car after work if he didn't fulfill my subscription. Early, because I was popping them. This thing took over my life. I lost my job at Apple because of it. I took a year off to rehab to get my back right. I went through 2 surgeries. And when I couldn't come back and face those people, so I resigned. I gave up the one thing I love more than anything. 5 years at the greatest job I've ever had in my life. And I was so embarrassed to come back that I resigned. We all have our demons. We all have our flaws. But if you are on 10 325s right now, you are not even remotely close to going through the pain and destruction that will follow if you allow yourself to now chase the dragon. You are past the point of opioid benefit, and you must increase your opioids to get the same contact high or some pain relief that doesn't exist, because it's not a pain reliever. It numbs your mind from focusing on the pain. There is a very big difference. Your body still goes through that trauma, and that trauma will add up. So when you numb yourself even more, your body still goes through more trauma, but now you're going through trauma from having a foreign substance in your body. Your dopamine levels go completely to nothing. Your serotonin levels go to nothing. Your body stops producing and continues to produce more cortisol and estrogen if you're a man, and more hormones of testosterone if you're a woman. You'll notice changes in your bodies and your makeup. You retain more water. You put more pressure on your veins. You open yourselves up to high cholesterol. You open yourselves up to CPD and heart disease, all of these things. You do more harm than good. So if you are that person, and you're listening to me now, and I know you are, you have got to jump. Do a gradual process and step down and lower your quantity every single day. And then when you jump. Flush it down the toilet. Don't ever take it again. You go to your doctor and you say the following words: I am an addict. Do not refill my prescription. Put me on the blacklist. And you will be put on a list for every pharmacy and every doctor who prescribes pain management, that you are not to be given anything unless is an advisory board or in a situation that is completely diagnosed, like cancer or something else, where you can have it rescinded. And when you do that, you'll never go back, because you won't even get a fucking Advil prescription filled until you have that removed. Opioids do nothing but dull a pain that's already there, that has nothing to do with the prominent pain you're trying to fix. You have an addictive personality. There is something inside your brain that is making you want to take these, because nobody does effort and futility. Nobody continues to take medication over and over and over and over. That doesn't give them any good. It's giving you something else. It's numbing a different kind of pain. You must address that you are addicted, that you have a problem, and you must get off of these. Because if you're taking the same amount for 4 years, it's not doing you any good. You don't get a high. It's not stopping pain. All you're doing is feeding the demon. And eventually you're going to break, and you're going to go down a spiral, and you're going to tell your doctor they're not working anymore. And then he's going to say, fine, let me go ahead and put you on hydrocodone. And then after hydrocodone, you're going to go on to Oxy. And then after Oxy, you can go to Dilaudid. You've got to get away from it now. Talk from somebody with experience. You've got to step away from it now. There's my speech. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me show. Appreciate you. God bless. We'll see you guys tomorrow. And have a good one. Talk to you. Thanks for watching.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, Olivia, and Mike. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on the Spreely.tv network and all major social media channels at The Dumb Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.